For the 57th year, nearly 600 passionate amateur racers have gathered to select their national champions under a unique format. One race, winner take all. And for the first time in 7 years, their stage is America's National Park of Speed, Road America. Welcome to the Sports Car Club of America Runoffs, our broadcast presented by Mazda. On a gorgeous Wisconsin fall day with so much color in the trees, we are at one of the world's finest racetracks, Road America, and we are approaching the halfway point in the 2020 Scca National Championship Runoffs. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Varsha. The class coming up, the Boomers, the Thunder Cars of GT1. Alongside is Larry McLeod, down in the pits, Tom O'Gorman. We've been looking forward to this one, Larry.
Oh, the sounds of these roaring machines coming up the Road America Street is just going to be epic. They are going to be pounding this pavement this afternoon.
Let's get down to the pits now and get last-minute word from Tom O'Gorman.
Good morning, guys. Yes, you're joining me on grid for GT1, the Ground Pounders. I'm a fan of math, so I looked up the numbers. This car, Ernie Francis Jr., with its pole-sitting time, is the 8th fastest car in this event, period, of over 600 cars. This is the 8th fastest of 600. This car is incredibly quick. All of these cars incredibly quick. Over 800 horsepower, under 3,000 pounds. Now, we do have a little bit of a tire war going on. The front pole-sitting car and the fourth-place car of Michael Lewis on Goodyear tires, Hoosier tires on Tony Ave's car, and also Dave Rullo. So watch for the way those tires last. Ernie Francis says that they last pretty well in what is a relatively short race. They're expecting to only use about 27 minutes of the time allotted for the 13 laps.
That tells you something about how fast these cars go. Now, we'll talk a lot about last year's race because it was an abbreviated affair after an incident mid-race. So I think a lot of these drivers have been planning to come back hoping to get a full race worth of action here at Road America. Beautifully turned out cars. That's Ernie Francis Jr., our tire rack pole sitter. The field is relatively small. We have 16 cars, but they are all great cars. There's Tony Ave from the Ave Racing family. They build cars, race them often out of Maiden, North Carolina. Always a threat. And he was one of the first drivers to get out of the car last year after a long red flag to say, well, wasn't much of a race.
Not so much, but it did. Ernie Francis was able to pick up his first gold medal for that young man. Not that it was his first championship, as he's got a string of Trans Am championships at the pro level, but he does like to play here at the amateur level, and he's got some tough competition with the likes of Tony Ave. You can see Mike Lewis is that beautiful black and orange Jaguar in the back of that shot. Mike Lewis has run Trans Am back in the day. That car is a former Trans Am series car. So this is all about drivers with a lot of experience and cars with a lot of experience in this field.
Well, and I guess that's my point. This is a redemption race after last year. Everybody wants a full dose of GT1. As you take a look at that Jaguar of Michael Lewis that Larry mentioned, Lewis has already won one class. He won the GT3 category yesterday, and he is eligible for the highest honor in SCC on-track action, the Super Suite, having won 6 races on the Hoosier Super Tour and winning that championship within a championship. Also the Western Conference champion in the major series. And now he has one task left to perform, and that is to win his class here at the National Runoffs. And given his record, Larry, I'd say that's probably a pretty good bet.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of championships with him. And, but definitely be a tough, stiff competition here. You look at some of these lap times from qualifying. Ernie Francis, really the class this field in the 202s, but the rest of the field just stacks up behind him with Tony Ave in the 204s, and then it's just tenths between Dave Rullo, Mike Lewis, Cliff Evans, Simon Gregg. It is going to be a tight, tight field. And attrition may come into play in some of these GT classes here at GT1 as well. These are big monster vehicles, but they are in some ways a little delicate. And we've seen around here the curbs are very, very big here at Road America. So you've got to treat these cars with care to keep them going, so that after 13 laps you have a shot to be on the podium.
If you're a dedicated race fan, you're going to hear a lot of the names that you've heard during the professional ranks. Certainly Ernie Francis Jr., Simon Gregg, Tony Ave, Michael Lewis, Claudio Burton, These drivers race at the professional level as well as SCCA competition. Gorgeous day. The wind blowing from the opposite direction. You see those flags snapping at the lower left of the picture. That means the wind is going to be behind the drivers, pushing them up this long 4,400-foot straightaway.
As if with 800 horsepower, you needed a tailwind
Right.
up the Road America straight. But then they'll have a little bit of a headwind, I guess, down the back straight into the trap speed section. We should see some trap speeds in excess of 170 miles an hour going down there. It's just going to be amazing display of horsepower.
I'm always fascinated when drivers of cars that are state-of-the-art in every way, not just horsepower, but aerodynamics, say, well, there was a wind from behind, from the front, a crosswind, whatever. So I'm a believer.
Absolutely. That Jag there that Mike Lewis is running, I do believe that was one of Paul Gentilosi's former cars that he used to run back in the day. And it's not a Jaguar engine under there. That is a Ford engine in that car. As you know, the old relationship of Ford and Jag.
That's right.
That's the way Trans Am rules are. Whatever the manufacturer's engines are, you can put whatever body you want on it. So that was the rule there. All these Mustangs have one of the Ford motors in it. Any one of these GM, this Corvette here has a GM motor in it. So that Jag, in fact, has a Ford motor inside.
Let's sit here and listen to all of these cars rumble onto the racetrack, but it's time for us to take a look at the starting grid for today's race. As I mentioned, Ernie Francis Jr. out of Southwest Ranches, Florida, is our tire rack pole sitter in his Ford Mustang with a new qualifying lap record. Next to him, Tony Avi from Maiden, North Carolina in a similar Ford Mustang. Row 2, Dave Rulo from Heartland, Wisconsin. This will be his home race in a Chevy Corvette. Next to Michael Lewis, the multi-time champion from Ojai, California, in a Jaguar XKR. On row 3, Cliff Eben from Appleton, Wisconsin, another home favorite in a Ford Mustang. And Simon Gray, from Shakopee, Minnesota, in a Chevy Camaro. On row 4, Claudio Burton from my neck of the woods in Alpharetta, Georgia, in a Camaro. And Rick Dittman from Lincolnshire, Illinois, in a Corvette. Row 5 will be Danny Lammers from Fremont, Wisconsin in a Mustang, and David Furstand from Fort Worth, Texas in a Corvette. Row 6, Zachary Monette from Milton, Georgia in a Mustang, and Richard Grant from Germantown, Tennessee in a Chevy Corvette. Row 7, Joe Frieda from Nostaluga, Alabama in a Corvette. Next to Bob Monette from Milton, Georgia in a Chevy Corvette. And on the 8th and final row, Don No from Arlington, Texas in a Ford Mustang, and Paige Monette Alexander from Milton, Georgia in a Chevy Corvette. Now this year, qualifying awards were handed out on each of the days of qualifying. The climax was the tire rack pole day, of course, but on day 1, Sunoco offered 10 gallons of free racing fuel if your qualifying time was closest to a number ending with the 3 digits to the right of the decimal in 260. Important number for Sunoco Race Fuels. And for this race, Claudio Burton from Alpharetta, Georgia, picked up the honors. On day 2, Hawk Brakes offered the Breakthrough Award, a new set of pads, to the driver that had the biggest improvement from their day 1 qualifying time to day 2, and that went to Zachary Monette from Georgia in his Mustang. You're going to want to turn up the volume for this one, ladies and gentlemen.
You can hear some of that grumbling just going around the carousel there as they're just sort of murmuring, just getting warmed up.
Road America is 4 miles long, plus a smidge, 4.048 if you're scoring at home. 14 turns, 10 to the right, 4 to the left. That has an impact on the way the drivers set up their cars for handling and cornering and tire wear. Lots of high-speed straightaways, 3 in all, the longest of which, the start-finish straightaway, is over 4,400 feet. It's about 170 feet of elevation change. This is one of the lowest points on the track, Canada Corner. And as you see, the hill begins to climb, and then from turn 14 to start-finish, it climbs very steeply to the highest point of the circuit at the flag stand. And now we are ready for the thundering GT1 class here as we come to the halfway point of the 2020 Scca National Runoffs. Look at the field right up on the safety car. These drivers are ready to go, and that moment is coming. Across the front row, lap record-setting Ernie Francis Jr., last year's winner, and Tony Avi in the white Mustang. Green flag waves and we're underway. Francis snagging the lead down in turn 1. Drivers using all of the track and then some. Here's turn 3. Critical. Whoa, we've got Michael Lewis in the Jaguar going straight on. Keep it out of the gravel trap. Yes, he can do that. Oh, but he gets to the fence. That's going to take some work. And so the most decorated driver in the field is out at turn 3.
Oh, that's just unfortunate to see. Just get a little bit of grass there on track left going into 3 here on this first lap. Cold tires. Still rolling again. That's a good sign.
Now he's got some work to do, and it should be fun to watch.
He's going to have some grass and gravel up in those radiator inlets up in the front of that thing. So hopefully that he's going to be watching his 10th gauge. Hopefully he's not going to have any cooling issues.
Yeah, we've seen that before this weekend. Meanwhile, the race continues on track. How about that noise?
The Alberto Camaro, and that thing has just been making all kinds of echoing V8 screaming sounds all weekend. It's a very unique sound. It's just incredible when he opens up the straightaways.
This is the carousel. See, it goes downhill slightly, a little bit off camber. That's the famous kink. Concrete left and right. A little bit of extra rumble strip if you get wide, but you can't go very wide or you've got a big problem.
Such a delicate dance to get this monster of a machine slowed down there for Canada Corner.
99 is Zachary Monette.
Younger of the Monettes, Bob Monette, the elder of the family there with all 3 Monettes, Bob Monette, Zach Monette, and Paige Monette Alexander here in this race.
You recognize those red, white, blue colors anywhere. Simon Gregg has been racing for quite a while. A regular in the Trans Am Series.
Quite a battle on his hands though with Rick Dittman in the Corvette right behind him.
Turn 3.
First stand chasing down Zach Monette. First stand in that red Camaro, or red Corvette. Chasing down Monette in the Mustang.
Heavy braking here for turn 5, which has been the action corner. Good passing opportunity.
To give you an idea, the speeds are coming in there right now. Ernie Francis Jr. at the front of the field, 171 miles an hour just before the braking zone. They're going into 5. Tony Ave, 175 miles an hour.
And everyone wants to crowd up against the fence as they flash by. Hear that amazing engine note.
If you get, there's a bridge that you see the bridge they just went under there as they go down here towards the kink. You can walk across that bridge and you can just go walk around the edge. You get a view of them as they enter this kink. And these cars, a little bit of brakes and kind of a little squirrely as they go into that. Always a treacherous move to watch.
Good look at Ernie Francis Jr. watching timing and scoring to see what kind of progress Michael Lewis might be making. He's currently about 28 seconds behind Bob Monette for next to last. Such a disappointment to see Lewis out of the race on lap 1. That just looks fast.
It just covers so much ground so quick, and you know, we just watched the B-Spec race, just sort of the other end of the spectrum when it comes to speeds. I mean, no less exciting when it comes to the actual racing action, side by side, nose to tail the whole time, but the speed delta is just tremendous. Ave really holding his own, though, not letting Ernie Francis Jr. get away. But these mid-pack races, like you're seeing here.
Simon Gregg moving slowly.
It does not look good.
And we've talked about it over and over again during the 12 classes previous to this one that have run this weekend. The track is fabulous, but it is wide open, sweeping. Well, Simon's going to have to pull it off. Looks like his race is over. There's so much full throttle running, so much stress put on the components of your race car.
Yeah, you're wide open for a long time. The curves around here, as you can see them there coming off of turn 7 down the Hurry Downs. And you can see them here. If you touch that curb at the apex at 8, or if you touch the exit rumbles there, they're trying to stay off the gators. But of course, you know, you rumble a little bit, they start shaking bolts in that car. They definitely put some damage on that.
Attrition has been a big story thus far here at the runoffs, and will continue to be as we go along. Thundering down from the kink to this Canada corner, turn 12 at Road America. Number 31 is Dave Rouleau in his Corvette, trying to keep Cliff Eben behind him in a Mustang. Battle of two Badgers. Rouleau from Heartland, Wisconsin, Eben from Appleton.
Right around the corner here. Love to see the hometown folks. Obviously, they get a lot of traveling, getting out and running some of the Pro Series and things, but coming back here to this just world-class, fantastic racetrack and putting on quite the epic battle. And I know, mentioning the Wisconsin roots here, Tony Ave listed as made in North Carolina, but born in Hurley, Wisconsin. So there's even some ties there to this upper Midwest here in the land of cheese.
4 miles around, 650 acres roughly. Lots of room for folks in this pandemic era to come out and separate themselves and watch great racing. The track built out of a former aggregate facility where they dug out all the rocks and stones that are a part of the Kettle Moraine deposited there during the Ice Age, and they made a handy aggregate to build roads and railway foundations here in eastern Wisconsin. In fact, the Elkhart Lake Sand and Gravel Company was run by a man named Cliff Tufte. When racing on the roads, the public roads that is, was banned back in the mid-50s, he decided he would lay out a racetrack here on property owned by his company. And that became Road America. The layout has not changed since it opened in September of 1955. It looked like a problem there after a great dice through turn 5. The 99 of Zach Monette has slowed. Meanwhile, this battle continues. Rouleau and Eben.
Yeah, right now, they are looking at provisionally in the 3rd spot, trying to fight for that podium, but Zach Monette looks like his day is done.
Oh, it's so frustrating. So many cars have suffered mechanical issues.
Yeah, this place is not very forgiving. You know, it's 4 miles around. It is rough. You can see the elevation changes here, which just makes it so challenging for a driver because every corner entry is a lot of little downhill braking points, some camber changes through the apexes, but the curbs are just brutal. They'll go from a little bit of a rise to the curb, and then it drops off to a rough, and some of the gators on the exits can really just pound away at a car.
Now we talk about speed, like this massive straightaway, full throttle, but there are corners slow enough to require running down through that gearbox and up again on your exit, and that puts strains on the driveline.
Right now, I'll tell you what, Eben is putting all the pressure on Dave Rouleau, and Rouleau is really withstanding that pressure very, very well. So we got Rick Dittman now and Dave Lammers having their Ford versus Chevy battle.
Yep, and that's a position change when they cross start finish, which is where our timing and scoring takes place. It was was Dittman ahead of Lammers, who was obviously made the pass in his Mustang.
Strong week for the Mustangs. A lot of Mustangs at the front of this field. Ernie Francis, Tony Ave. Tony Ave last year was running his Corvette. It's actually parked under his canopy down there at the bottom of the hill, but he's running his Mustang this week. You can see Cliff Eben trying to chase down Rulo. And speaking of forward power, that Jaguar, Mike Lewis, looks like he's just going to go ahead and pull it right back into the pits after that first lap off. And I wonder if he's getting a little bit of overheating with some gravel or some grass in those radiator inlets.
He may park it. He may just have the grass pulled away and get back into it.
This battle, these guys have just been attached.
The cars just look fabulous. I mean, yes, they're profiled to look like a Corvette or a Mustang, but they sit so low to the ground. The wide fender flares for the big tires, wings on the back. I mean, these are purebred race cars. A fitting cousin, if you will, to the mighty Trans Am series that raced here for many, many years at Road America. And continues to today.
It's just built for cars like this. These long straightaways, this wide type of track, 4 miles around. Absolutely built for this kind of horsepower.
So podium position potentially for Dave Rulo behind Ernie Francis Jr. and Tony Ave. We're having their own little dice. You see the upper left of your screen. Ernie Francis leads Tony Ave by less than a second.
Yeah, Ave's closed up quite a bit here in this last couple laps. Ave has done his, I think his own personal best laps. He was able to get within that second.
This is the battle. Whoa. Ave getting tail happy. You can't get off that rumble strip, or you can use it and the extra pavement that you see down there in turn 8. But when it ends, you've got dirt, and repeated passing by race cars over that dirt has dug holes and ruts in them. And it can really unsettle the car if you do any agricultural racing.
Well, keep in mind, these two are on different tires. You got Ave on the Hoosiers, and Francis is on those Goodyears. And I'm starting to wonder now, as we raise a halfway point, if perhaps the Hoosiers are starting to come in a little bit, allowing it to chip away.
Squirming under braking, Ernie Francis Jr. leads Tony Ave in the GT1 class here at Road America. This is the battle for first place and the gold medal at the Scca runoffs here at Road America. Ernie Francis Jr., the defending class champion, and Tony Ave. Those two started on the front row, and they've been basically doing this little minuet since the race began as we work lap 7.
Love seeing this. This is the youth and experience going heads up. You know, Ernie Francis may have a couple of championships under his belt, but he is still a very young man. Tony Ave, a few years older, but plenty of experience right now. Keeping that car, was willing to drop back first couple laps, keep the car contained, not use it up, and here he is. That car's coming into its own right now.
Can Ave get alongside in the white Mustang? Yes, he has. So he'll have the inside line for the left-hander coming up. And we have a change for the lead as Tony Ave, Ernie Francis tries the duck and run under, but he can't make it stick. In fact,
something wrong with
Ernie dropped
Francis.
back?
Yeah. Oh,
problem for the defending champion. Oh my.
Yeah, there's definitely something wrong there. Didn't see what that was. I'm wondering if maybe as he went into braking and gearbox or something like that, just unable to get back on the power. Don't see him dropping anything.
It's the first thing we look for.
Which means this battle now between Rulo and Eben now becomes a battle for second. It's Tony Ave now out in front, looking in his mirrors going, where did Ernie Francis go? I'm sure he's on comms with his team to let him know. And now his ears will become really crisp. His ears will definitely be listening for anything in his own machine As you get past that halfway point, you start listening for all the little things that might be causing a little attrition to your own machine when it's for Tony Ave. But Rulo and Eben, these two aren't listening to anything. They're just watching either mirrors or bumpers.
Climbing the hill through turn 13, where the Billy Mitchell Bridge once stood until 2006 when it was removed. Part of the improvements to Road America over the years, but it remains, as I mentioned earlier, in its original configuration. So if you like to compare times, you can go way back into the history books, all the way to 1955, when the first race run at this track was won by Phil Hill in a Ferrari, America's first Formula One world champion.
So much history here.
You bet.
Keeping an eye on Claudio Burton back there. He's not far away. He's chipping away at these two. He just took about 2 seconds out of Cliff Eben for third. So I'm keeping an eye on that dark gold Camaro. He's pretty hungry right now, thinking he may have a shot at a podium watching these two white cars out in front of him.
The order is Ave, Rulo, Eben, then Claudio Burton, as Larry mentioned, Denny Lammers, David Furstand, Rick Dittman, Joe Frieda, and then we'll have Don No as Ernie Francis Jr. continues to fall down the order, and then Bob Monette. I wanted to finish that top 10 quickly before it changed in case we lost another car. It has been phenomenal this weekend, the wear and tear.
Yeah, it really has. This is an unforgiving place for mechanics.
You can see this racing surface has a lot of age to it. It's a kind way to say it's a bit worn. Sometimes racers like that. They don't like the idea of repaving tracks that they have all worked out in their setup books.
You lose the character sometimes. Sometimes a lot of that character is out there with a little bit of the wave to it, a little bit of the bumps and the creases, seams, because then you've got that veteran knowledge. When you go to a new track, you don't need 3 days of practice. You can go out there on just that first qualifying session and put your lap down because you know where all those seams are.
Right.
And then when it rains, you know where that line is.
Rain changes everything, but apparently not a chance of it this weekend.
No chance for rain or snow, which a few weeks ago, in October in Wisconsin, you just never know. But boy, the weather gods are shining brightly on us here.
A week or two ago, I went to a family affair out in Breckenridge, Colorado, and they were talking about snow every day. And up in the high reaches of the mountains, they got some. But as you can see, it is full autumn here in Wisconsin. The trees are beautiful, the track is fabulous, and the action has been terrific. So stay with us. Today's broadcast of the SCCA Runoffs is brought to you by Mazda. Feel alive.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
It's happening more often, and that's not surprising. People are getting lost to find themselves. And discovering the best part is often hidden in the journey along the way. The first ever CX-30. Performance that inspires with available iActive all-wheel drive.
The action continues here at Road America in the thundering GT1 class. There's a look at race leader Tony Ave, who was trailing defending champion Ernie Francis Jr. until lap 7 of this race, when Francis pulled over with a mechanical problem. Ave assumed the lead, and he now has about a 24-second gap ahead of second-place man Dave Rulo, who has mirrors full of Cliff Eben for second place. Then Claudio Burton Denny Lammers, David Fursten, Joe Frieda, Rick Dittman, Don No, and Bob Monette, your top 10. Here's that battle between Rouleau and Eben.
Rouleau has been able to lead this battle the entire time, and Eben has just been patient sitting behind him. But at some point, you know, we're down to these last 3+ laps. Eben's going to have to make a move. I'm just curious how much tire that Eben has left himself in that tire bank. He hasn't quite made all the withdrawals from his account to be able to make a move. Eben seems to have the higher trap speed. Of course, he's been in the draft most of the way. I talked earlier about Claudio Burton in that gold Camaro behind him. He seems to have just a hair less power than this grouping, so he doesn't quite have the straightaway legs to keep up with him. Though as it gets to the twisty bits, he's able to make up some ground. He's just not close enough here unless these two start to really start to battle it out, and then maybe he'll gain a little bit. But right now, Eben kind of waiting to see what kind of move he makes. Does he have enough data sitting in the back of Rouleau for the last 9.5 laps to be able to make a move here in these last 3? Tire marks those things leave down coming here through turn 8.
If you're just joining us, we should also mention that many-time class champion Michael Lewis suffered a problem in his Jaguar and went off at turn 3 on lap 1, taking with him the possibility of an 11th national championship and a 2020 Super Sweep of the Hoosier Super Tour, the Majors Series, and the runoffs. Right now it's about these guys. Tony Ave out front, that gap shown at 24.7 seconds. Rouleau and Eben fighting over the other 2 places on the podium. And as we've seen race after race, it's long from over.
And these two are saving their best for last, as Rouleau is putting in his personal best sectors here, 10 laps into this race. And he's going to need it because Cliff Eben is just hot on his tail. And then Eben puts in his personal best 3rd sector. So these two are not giving up. Claudio Burton lost a little bit of ground there, so he may not be much of a factor here. It's going to come down to Rouleau and Eben for that 2nd step silver medal.
Little tap of the brakes at that blind turn 6 over a brow left-hander. You have to look around for your brake point and your turning points because you cannot see the apex of the corner from the race car.
Flames spitting out the sides. It's just
A lot of flames.
Raw muscle racing. Just flames and tires and it's beautiful stuff. Just going to see if can Cliff Eben keep close enough. Rouleau has really been able to crank it up here in this last lap and a half or so. He was able to just keep Eben behind him while saving enough of the car. But now can Eben respond? With 2.5 laps remaining, Eben's going to have to work a little bit. He's dropped back now, almost a second behind him.
Flashing off through the kink. Problems down in, is that Canada corner for number 28. That is Paige Monette Alexander. And she will have the leader might have already passed that point. Certainly that Rouleau-Eben battle. There they are. Fortunately, she was able to clear the area before they arrived. So as they come around to complete lap 12, your leader remains Tony Ave. Up the hill and headed towards start finish. Across the line they come to take the white flag here in the GT1 division at the SCCA runoffs. This is the battle for 2nd. The white Chevy Corvette of Dave Rouleau against the similar white Mustang of Cliff Eben. Leader Tony Ave is down the road about 23 seconds after he was handed the lead when early race leader and defending class champion Ernie Francis Jr. suffered a mechanical problem and pulled to the side of the road.
Rouleau and Eben now getting around Paige Monette Alexander. Likely she'll pull off to the side there on that back straight, let them go through. But Tony Ave here, just cool as can be, which I love how he puts his own initials on the back of the car. I'm sure that's what the TA stands for on his bumper there, and not Trans Am.
Well, they build these race cars with a lot of success. Tony has been around. I'll be interested to hear his winter interview, if in fact we hear it. Fingers crossed. Meanwhile,
this is Denny Lammers and Dave Furstand here for 5th and 6th. Another Chevy versus Ford battle. This is never over until the checker waves.
There's Ave. That splitter on the front bouncing as he touches the brakes and the weight shifts forward in preparation for the turn in at turn 14. Up the hill he comes one more time and to the checkered flag as Tony Ave grabs the gold medal here. Oh, I beg your pardon. Have I done it again? That's the white flag. There's a reason for that, but I won't bother you with the explanation. We've got one to go. Tony Ave remains unflustered, unlike me, up at the front. Here comes that battle between Rouleau and Eben. Now, does Eben have something for him? I was about to say Rouleau, as you mentioned earlier, Larry, had pulled away.
Eben was able to pick up about a 10th on that lap 12, but he's just not quite close enough to make a move. He's going to have to just get a little bit closer. And Furstand here on the back of Lammers for 5th is going to have to be doing the same thing as they're coming off of 14 heading up that hill. So Furstand and Eben are both in the same mindset here to pick up that one spot if they can. In one case, it's a Mustang chasing a Corvette. In another, it's a Corvette chasing a Mustang.
Well, we want to be impartial about this.
Play no favorites.
Another pair of great-looking race cars.
They all make great sounds.
Rouleau and Eben. Off to the left, you had a glimpse of Michael Lewis's car. Excuse me, not Michael Lewis, but Ernie Francis Jr.'s Mustang. Built for power and speed. And right now, sitting forlornly by the side of the racetrack. It'll be a woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of thing for several drivers in the class this weekend as you look at Claudio Burton running his Camaro.
Great shot of that deep gold colored Camaro and those noises it makes. But Tony Ave.
Looks like he's lifted a little bit, and why not? He's got a fat 20-second lead en route to the checkered flag as Tony Ave wins the national championship in GT1. Well done. Here comes second and third, and it looks like, in fact, Cliff Eben didn't have anything for Dave Rouleau. He followed him lap after lap, unable to make the pass, and they come home second and third. And here is Burton flashing across start finish in 4th place. Is Paige Monette Alexander down in 10th place.
Great race between those two there for the second and third step on that podium with Eben and Rouleau. Rouleau was able to just kind of save enough of the car that those last 3 or 4 laps he was able to just start to put down his best sectors over and over and over again, and Cliff Eben just had nothing to respond with. So great racing between them, but Tony Ave up front was able to drop back just a little bit from Ernie Francis early. The car came in about 3-4 laps later, begin to pressure the back of Francis, and then we're not sure what the mechanical issue was with Francis there. They made the clean pass into 5 and then just turned the mirrors down and said, okay, time to bring it home.
Turn the mirrors down. I like that.
Can't say it's original. I might have taken that one from Mr. Greg Kramer, who's announced these runoffs once or twice. Greg, hope you're listening in and enjoying the show here a little bit. For Tony Ave, this is just his second gold medal. With all the success he's had over the years, just his second gold, his first since 2007.
Wow. Well, today it's a bit of a Saturday drive to a championship for him. In another class that saw a healthy share of attrition.
I wonder what would have been with that Mike Lewis turn 3 braking zone, going into that grass and then kind of pounding through there into the gravel trap. What would have been had he been able to stay on pavement there?
Well, it's part of racing. Someone once said that's why we run the races, to see who can finish and who can finish first. A beautiful wide pit lane here at Road America, and into the winner's circle comes Tony Ave, who picks up the national championship in the GT1 class here at the Scca runoffs.
A wide pit lane for probably the widest car that will roll down that pit lane this week.
But plenty of racing still to come. This is our 13th of 26 classes, so we are right at the halfway mark. Plenty of great racing still to come. The 31 of Dave Rouleau is now in place, and we await Cliff Eben, our third and final podium finisher. There he is. And the Scca worker in the pit lane is saying, hey, wait a minute. You were supposed to stop.
Courtney will go fetch him.
Well, while they try to collect Cliff Eben, their third place finisher, let's hear from our winner with Tom.
Tony Ave, that race looked like it was starting to swing your way, and then it ended up falling in your lap. How much of that was the game plan?
Really all of it. They've been on soft tires all week, and we haven't had a soft tire program. So we figured he'd get out, and then I'd run him down towards the end. And to be honest, I think he was running a pace to try to keep his tires under it, and I didn't have to go very hard to stay with him. And then, it looks to me like they just went off, but he may have something else break. I passed him, and he tried to stay with me for a little bit and then pulled off. So either they broke something or their tires come apart, one of the two. But big thanks to Hoosier for doing such a great job, and all my guys, Denny Lamers, and I love racing at Road America.
Made the pass for it to count and earned the gold medal. Congratulations.
Well done indeed to Tony Ave. And that was a very clinical dissection of the race in terms of tire performance and what his plan was and how things all turned out. Unofficial results, Ave, Rouleau in second, Eben in third, the Claudio Burton in the Camaro in fourth, Denny Lammers, David Furstead, Joe Frieda, Don Noe, Bob Monette, and Paige Monette Alexander. 8 cars on the lead lap at the end, and a 16-second margin of victory for Tony Ave. Ave pulls away for his traditional Scca runoffs. Checkered flag lap of honor. Let's get back down to Tom.
Dave Rouleau, it was a battle for the bronze. It became a battle for the silver, and you kept the pressure on, but you kept your cool.
Yeah, it's a good time out there. I want to thank my crew, my family, my wife. Hoosier Tire was great out there. They lasted strong the whole race, so had a fun race with Cliff there and brought her home in second, so we're happy.
Congratulations on the silver medal at Road America.
Thank you.
Congratulations indeed. And this will make a nice picture.
Nothing like the 14th lap for that driver getting to throw that checker around.
Yep.
Very much a runoffs tradition here.
And sometimes the cars are festooned with crew members.
Not much of a passenger seat in a
No,
GT1
there
car,
isn't.
though.
These are slick. They're trying to cling to a surfboard with wheels. But we'll no doubt see some more memorable 14th laps.
And even for a pro like Tony Ave and a veteran like Tony Ave, I'm sure this is still a special moment for him.
Sure. Perhaps this is where it really dawns on you why you do it.
Absolutely. And I'll give a big wave to all the flaggers, the workers around this place, and who've been out here for more than a week, and they love this moment as well.
Up to turn 6 goes the race winner, and we go back down to Tom.
We found Cliff Eben. Now, Cliff, it was the best battle on the track, even though it was for second. You kept the pressure on. It was a well-run race.
Yeah, everything went pretty smooth. I had them at one time, but then they sent a car out on the track in front of me, and it kind of cost that, so never was able to get past again.
Well, congratulations on the bronze medal.
I can't hear you. Okay?
Yep, that's the point, Cliff. You can't hear when these cars come by, and the sound is such a big part of the spectacle. Here's a look at the highlights. Ernie Francis Jr. and Tony Ave across the front row. Francis, the defending gold medalist in class, took the early lead as those behind battled to stay on track. And there you saw the Jaguar of Michael Lewis, a multi-time champion who gets into a problem in the braking area for turn 3, bounds across the gravel trap, noses into the wall. He was able to extract it, but then had to pull aside. His mechanical problem was terminal. As it was for this man, Ernie Francis Jr., and his battle for Tony Ave, or with Tony Ave, I should say, was over, and Ave cruised from there for nearly half the race for the victory. And a great battle for second place between Dave Rouleau and Cliff Eben. A pair of Wisconsin Badgers went to Rouleau. Well, that was GT1, but plenty of action still to come. Congratulations to all of our podium finishers in class and to national champion Tony Ave.